According to a report from website mpfirst.com, and is confirmed by multiple reliable sources, including those speaking with website Video Games Chronicle and this very podcast, the 2017 PS4 game Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a remake of some sort on PlayStation 5. According to this report, in part, quote, our source didn't elaborate whether or not this was a built from the ground up style remake. However, we were told that the remake features an improved lighting system, overhauled textures, and better animations with new character models to match those found in the sequel, end quote. In other words, this remake will be in line, apparently, with what Naughty Dog did to the PS3 turned PS4 game The Last of Us, although that game is currently twice as old as the first Horizon and is from 2 console generations ago, not 1. Website Video Games Chronicle further notes that the further improvements a la The Last of Us Part 1 are planned, such as quality of life tweaks and accessibility options, not found the first time around. It's important to note that Sony hasn't yet officially announced this project, but the sources are reliable and it's obviously real. It also comports with a story seemingly leaked separately from years ago, which we will discuss in a little while. Sony-owned Guerrilla, which Sony purchased about 15 years ago, was at one time best known for its Killzone FPS franchise, which began on PlayStation 2 in 2005. It was at one time slated to be Sony's answer to Halo, though that never materialized, and Guerrilla last launched a game in the franchise when PS4 launched in 2013 in the form of Shadowfall. In 2017, it released its action RPG Horizon Zero Dawn on PlayStation 4, and it went on to become one of the best-selling PlayStation exclusives of all time. It was followed by a sequel earlier this year and will no doubt be capped off in a trilogy at some point. However, Horizon is far from dormant. As we'll discuss shortly, there are at least 2 more Horizon games in development and potentially more, in addition to a recently greenlit TV show. Yeah, I'll just let you guys get right into it. Chris, what do you think?
This feels really stupid. I don't see. This feels like a fever dream to me because how many times have we been on this show? Not even just us on this show. Do you remember back when Insomniac was tweeting images of fucking Resistance?
Yeah, the Chimera.
And we were like,
yeah.
Oh, there must be something. And that game is still, it is 2022. It is still landlocked to the PlayStation 3. You can play the third one on modern hardware, stream only. That's how you can play it right now on modern PlayStation hardware. So we don't have Resistance back in any form, in any way, shape, or form. But we have Horizon Zero Dawn, which I don't know what the point of a remake is at this point. And this is kind of what I was talking about. There are games where I understand, or even entire generations, entire console libraries where I understand. The PS1, absolutely. The PlayStation 1 was a rough period in time, especially for 3D games. That was everybody was learning their footing. There's a lot has been learned, and they looked hideous. Give those games a facelift, absolutely. PlayStation 2 starts to get a little bit dubious. And then 3 is where I feel like it's not really all that necessary. Maybe you can make a special case for something like Dead Space, where it's like so specifically horror that like you kind of gain a lot from that increase in fidelity. But PS4 to PS5, in this context, I'm sorry. Horizon Zero Dawn looks entirely fine as it is. I don't see the purpose of this. And what bothers me too is there's such a focus on accessibility options in these games, and that in and of itself doesn't bother me, but I feel like they're focusing very heavily on that so as to be like, well, what do you mean you're against this? Well, you don't want other people to you don't want other people to play the game.
I didn't want to say that, but I agree. It's like a shield. It feels that way. Yeah.
It feels like a little shield because it's like, oh, well, it's not ripping people off. It's just letting people who've never played the game before play the game. But it's like, how many people is that really? Also, it begs the question, why would you charge for that? Why wouldn't you just put that into a patch? Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't you just patch that into the original game? Surely you can do that. It's not. I hate this. I hate this culture that we've cultivated where we're remaking games 3 days after they come out. I'm so tired. I'm tired. Well,
the point you make is well taken. Ryan Goldner writes in and agrees. He says, hey, Sacred, with the leak that Sony is remastering Horizon Zero Dawn, I have to ask, when will Sony start porting forward the games that actually need, aka titles trapped on PS3 and beyond? There are a bevy of titles with a few PS3 in particular being Infamous, Resistance, Folklore, Drakengard 3, White Knight Chronicles. It is just frustrating to see Sony so interested in making money on games already available on modern consoles when so many games are not, and I would happily pay for. Enough of my rant. Please get Chris some additional voice acting roles and have a good day, gents. Thank you, Ryan, for writing in. I totally agree. Although I question the nature of the games you want to come back. It's like Resistance. Okay, yeah, sure. Dragon Guard 3.
That's very.
I mean,
Specific,
that's a near game, but White Knight Chronicles. Dude, did you play White Knight Chronicles? I defy you to tell me that you played White Knight Chronicles and you want that game to come back. That game sucks. Oh my God, I hate that game. So there are a lot. Infamous and Infamous 2, Killzone 2 and Killzone 3. The Resistance trilogy.
Every single fucking Resistance.
Right,
every single Resistance game.
I think games like Heavenly Sword. I mean, there are games that probably should come forward. And a game like Heavenly Sword is like a tempting remake. Even Heavenly Sword would be like a tempting remake for me. That would make sense. It's like, oh yeah, Heavenly Sword never got its full shine, came out at probably the worst single time for PlayStation. No one cared about PlayStation at this point. If it came out 5 years later, it would have been huge. It would have, totally. And so it seems nonsensical. And I agree from that perspective that you would want to focus on the games people can't play and make them more accessible. Unless what you're trying to do is make PlayStation Plus, the new PS Now kind of tier, is more, I don't know, valuable, but you can just have those games both streamable and downloadable. So I don't think it's that. Dustin, what do you think about Horizon Zero Shame?
So I feel like right now, everyone should be holding their pitchforks, ready to strike. But I really feel like we just simply don't know enough information yet on whether or not this is something to be angry about. Obviously, there's a train of thought that this isn't necessary, so it's a wasted time of resources, right? Sure, totally fair argument. I think, though, when it comes to PlayStation's recent trend, specifically talking about Last of Us Part 1, is that I don't think most people are upset about the idea of some of their favorite games getting new ports that are better fidelity, higher resolution, or whatever. It comes down to Sony's business model of how they are selling these.
Right.
So that's my question, is this Horizon Zero Dawn, which also it says in the source, we don't know if it's a remaster or a remake. So again, that's why I'm saying let's just hold our horses for a minute here. If they try to do exactly what they did with Last of Us Part 1, then yes, I think that this is absolutely ridiculous and a waste of resources. But if they try to do a thing where it's Horizon Zero Dawn Director's Cut, where you can spend $10, maybe even $20, I don't know. If there's some kind of upgrade path or something like that, then it really doesn't necessarily bother me that much, because it sounds like there is some extensive work being done to it. So for me, like I said, it's kind of just a wait and see approach. I don't know. Sony continually has shocked us in the PlayStation 5 era of the stupid shit they're willing to pull off. So my gut reaction is no. There's no possible way that they're going to try to charge $70 for this game and touch it up for a game that's this short of a turnaround, right? But at the same time, and I think this is a part of the news later, Last of Us Part 1 sold very well. It's the third best-selling game on the PlayStation Store. So why wouldn't they do this? Why wouldn't they? They've been rewarded for it with Last of Us Part 1, which you could argue is a more defensible position for how old the original game was. Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The market speaks when it comes to these things. So I find it hard to believe that they would do a $70 repackage of this. But again, I'm willing to acknowledge that Sony continually shocks me in their money grubbing this console generation. So at the same time, I feel like that is also entirely possible. But I think we have to wait and see what the rollout is.
I think there's a route for them to charge $70 for it, assuming it's real, right? And I'll get into that in a second. But there is this argument that I even made with The Last of Us Part 1, that Part 1 plus Left Behind equals more value than the core game. But that's not really true, because they removed factions, right? So you're kind of getting a 1-for-1, let's say, value. And so then you have to just re-question the value at base level. However, Horizon has a way out of this, which is they can do Horizon plus Frozen Wilds and say this is ostensibly, not ostensibly, this is obviously a much better package at the price point than the original when you're getting this $20 expansion or whatever. I'm not saying it's a good argument. I'm not saying it's an argument that would justify its existence. I'm just saying that I feel like they can do it. And I wrote it down just to make sure I brought it up because you had brought up the price point. Like, I just think it's obvious that Sony is not going to shake from this $70 price point. The first time they do it, and maybe you're right and they will, but the first time they do it, then everyone's going to be like, well, what about this game? And what about this game? And what about this game? And I think they're just trying to instruct everyone like it's not happening. And maybe there'll be some games that come out that will be this kind of thing, but not our AAA fare. But I want to say this real quick. This was shared with me a few months ago by someone reliable, this news. And I believed it. But it was not mine to report. I would have, other people have better sources and will report it on their own. I couldn't corroborate it personally. So it's not worth bringing up on the show, especially something this big. But I was shown what was purported to be a screenshot of it too. And it seems like it's going to be The Last of Us Part 1 kind of situation. Like where we don't know what to call it, a remake or a remaster or it's not a reimagining. We know that, like Final Fantasy VII, we're in this weird vernacular. We don't quite have any definitions for things, but I think it's going to be like new models, like you said, new models, new lighting, all of this, which is exactly what The Last of Us Part 1 is, to bring it more in line with The Last of Us Part 2, I suppose, or in this case, Horizon Forbidden West. And the only question I have there is they're both PS4 games natively. I just find this totally shameless. This is, you're right. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean to interrupt. I just thought of, because the justification for doing this is that we got to bring this game in line with the sequel. And it's like, okay, but then how many times can you do that? Like, if they make a Last of Us Part 3 in like, I don't know, 7 years, it's going to look presumably like significantly better than The Last of Us Part 2. So then it's like, well, we need to get The Last of Us Part 2 and we need to bring The Last of Us Part 2 in line with The Last of Us Part 3. So it feels like, what happened to just understanding the concept of the passage of time? What happened to that? Like, what happened to, like, oh yeah, I could see as technology gets better, the movies look better. That's kind of wild. I don't know why that is something that we are so eager to evaporate. Wouldn't that be a cool thing to have work presered in that way?
George Lucas hates this conversation.
I know. Right. Yeah. Right. But that's what I mean. It's like, this feels like Sony consistently just Lucasing up all their shit for what I deem to be no real reason. There's nothing offensively awful looking about Horizon Zero Dawn,
not remotely,
except for Child Aloy.
Yeah, Child.
But aside from that, that's a patch, bro. Like, if you really wanted to fix it, you could just update it. You can patch those kinds of things in. Anything else is just Lucasing, and it just feels so gratuitous when it's only been 5 years on a console, by the way, that doesn't look half bad. PS4 does not look bad at all.
Oh, Horizon.
So they updated it to work with PS5 and take advantage of 60 FPS.
Yeah, there is no foundational reason for it to exist. There is no, it's unplayable because it runs at 20 frames per second. No, it doesn't. It doesn't run at the right resolutions anymore. No, it doesn't. I mean, yes, it does. It works perfectly fine. So it literally is just to double dip in the name of like, oh, well, it's more in line with the modern thing. I can't wait for Last of Us Part 2 Remake Part 1. You know what I mean? Like, at what point? That doesn't even feel impossible now.
No, it doesn't. I really feel like this is, Dustin is fundamentally right. This is what I was going to say, actually, before I even say anything else, which is Dustin is fundamentally right that we don't really know what we're getting yet. But yes, you do.
So I want to throw this out here. Some info.
Yeah, please.
Okay. I looked back because I was trying to remember, remember that we got when Ghost of Tsushima came out, they released it again on PlayStation 5 a year later. This was the pricing structure. To upgrade your PS4 copy to the director's cut. So that wasn't generational. It was $20. Basically, you were paying $20 for the DLC. If you were taking your PS4 normal copy to the director's cut, it was $30. If you
God.
PS4 director's cut to PS5 director's cut was $10.
Why can't you just make games and then just sell them one time and then move on? Starting with PS4. Guys, I just want to say real quick, I don't care about any game from PS3 or before getting remade. Like, that's inoffensive to me. Whether or not the game is good or not, I don't know. But that idea is inoffensive to me. When we're talking about PS4 games, no. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris. Sorry, Dustin.
The thing I want to throw out just here is that, and this is just a hypothetical thinking out loud, is that would a solution like this, where there's 3 different price points where, do you just have Horizon Zero Dawn? Do you have Horizon Zero Dawn plus the Forbidden Wilds? Do you have this, with individual price points? So at least then as a consumer, you're only paying for what you need or what you want, right? Or what kind of upgrade path makes sense for what you're getting. As silly as it is, I would rather have 3 different price point options than just saying, hey, fuck you, here's a $70 price point if you want to play this game again.
Yeah, but the thing is like, that's like being asked, like, would you rather me shoot you in the head with a shotgun or get shot from 100 yards with a sniper rifle? It's like, why don't you just give it to us for free? It's like,
I agree with that.
I know that. I know what you're saying, but I just go back to like the problems are getting compounded, because if what you're saying is true, which I agree with, then the problem is not it's not destabilizing. It's getting more stable. It's actually getting more solidified. It's getting worse. Like, they're becoming more money hungry and more grubby. I know it sounds vacant of business know-how, and I know that they're putting money and time in this. I get it, but why can't it just be that from the PS4 on, where they say we're making a game and we'll support the version of the game we released and make sure it's the best it can possibly be over time. And if you want to play Horizon, you can buy that version of the game, which now runs on PS5, now has 60 frames, now does this, now does that, now has Frozen Wilds and all this. I understand what you're saying, but this is an evolution in the wrong direction. I almost wanted them to devolve and be like, well, we can make this right, because this product exists and we don't know quite what it's going to be, and maybe they will react to The Last of Us Part 1's bad critical, not critical reception, but I guess bad media coverage and all of the rest. But to your point, it did pretty well commercially, and I was very happy to buy it. But I think that I just fundamentally think there's a difference between The Last of Us and Horizon, not in terms of quality, although that exists as well, but just in terms of time. And it's shameless. It's if this is true and this is going to be a real product, like, it's shameless, because why are you doing this? To what end are you? There's so much Horizon now too. Are you going to run? And this is something we'll talk about in a little while, but are you going to run this into the ground now and ruin Horizon? I don't know, man. Ben Matthews wrote in about this though. He said, "Greetings, Colin and Co. What's up with the rumored remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn for PlayStation 5? Setting aside what type of remaster or remake this is this evidence that Sony wants to price their games more like Nintendo, where they retain their value for longer? In the past, you have observed that Sony quickly undervalues their games, especially considering their quality. Is the remaster strategy an attempt for Sony to rectify their past mistakes? When I bought Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition for PlayStation 4, it was $10, which is an insane value proposition. With a native version of Horizon Zero Dawn for PS5, they could reset the price back to $50 or $70. According to Amazon, other PlayStation 5 ports are still full price, such as Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding, but are deeply discounted on PlayStation 4. Has Jim Ryan realized the mistakes of Sony's past and is now making players pay for the full worth of PlayStation games? And if so, is remastering and porting part of their strategy? Thanks. I mean, this could be it. This is the only thing I can really think of, is that they're trying to maybe, I don't want to say reset the market, but just extract the more permanent value out of their games. But the problem is that you can't do that when the old version of the game can be played on the new hardware for $10. I mean, what are you going to do with the old version of Horizon? And how are you going to say like, oh, the new one is 70, the old one is 10? It just doesn't, it's just like, wow, how can that be? I don't know. I understand. While I don't understand everyone being upset about PlayStation Stars or anyone being upset about PlayStation Stars, I get the cynicism about this one. in a time where we just don't know what they're doing and they're not speaking much, and this is the news that comes out amongst other things, it's disappointing.
The thing that's most gratuitous about it to me is like you said earlier, they're putting money and time into it. Why? Why aren't you working on the next thing? We already have Horizon. We already have Horizon Zero Dawn, and it is perfectly functional. Like, it is totally fine. Why are you putting time and money into this? I get the accessibility. Like, look, man, I'm totally about it. I think that's cool. If you want to, and that to me is a very patchable thing. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I look at a game like vanilla Destiny 2 and compare it to now, and I'm looking at it. It's like, this is a completely different game, stem to stern. Like, this feels like a very, 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 very different package. And if they're able to change the code of a game so significantly that it feels significantly different, that it functions entirely differently, surely there is a way to patch accessibility options into an existing game. Surely that's possible. That is not beyond the realm of possibility. And if that's where they want to do stuff, I say great. Maybe even like up the resolution. That's cool, but that's already on PC. So I imagine you already have like the highest fidelity version of Horizon Zero Dawn available to you in some capacity. So I don't know. It just feels so profoundly unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I make the argument, right, Chris, that there is some sort of opportunity gain, opportunity loss. The idea that every opportunity you take is seemingly infinite opportunities lost. And
yeah. It's very. Imagine this for a moment.
Yeah.
Imagine Media Molecule shows up. Imagine Media Molecule shows up at a state of play, and they're like, guys, we're remaking Dreams. Like, what? How do you feel about that?
I would stop playing video games forever if that happened. Probably.
I'll move into the mountains. Guys, Dreams runs at 140 frames a second on the PS5 now, and all new textures. God Christ.
It's just like, I understand, and we're going to have a better understanding that they want Horizon to be huge. This is a thing that they feel like should be big, and I think they felt like that way about The Last of Us as well. However, my whole argument about infinite opportunities lost is when the reason that I think The Last of Us was a little more justifiable was because there was a team that has never really come to fruition that did much of the work, and then it was finished by Naughty Dog in a really quality way. Like, I thought The Last of Us Part 1 was worth $70, but I still feel like the game is more distant. The Last of Us is a better game, and I think in a more important game to have in the most solid condition possible. And as a one-off, it doesn't seem as cynical. But if this is a style that they're going to do now of game where they're going to pretend that this is like, we're going to buy this shit again and be happy about it, and unfortunately that would be part of the problem, of course, then it's disappointing. And it's to the point we made earlier. It's just, there are so many games that need just any sort of treatment. Not the new lighting and new character models. Like, just port this shit over. I don't know. I don't understand what you're doing. You're leaving so many games stranded. We already have. Not only do we already have a Horizon, we already have Horizon. Not just a Horizon. Not some sort of semblance of Horizon. We have it, and it's beautiful. It's great. It's 5.5 years old, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful game. So, I don't know, man. We'll learn more about this, but remember, I told you guys a while ago that someone told me about Wolverine, and it was so unbelievable that I didn't share it with anyone because I was like, "There's no way that that's true," and then it ended up being true. There's a Wolverine game. I was like, "Wow," I'm like, that's like the biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard. This is different. When I heard this, I was like, "Oh my God, I believe it," and I can't wait to not talk about this because I just want to get through it. We just got to survive now.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. Because I feel it coming, and I get this is the ingredient in the chemistry necessary to get a disgruntled PlayStation fan base. That I understand. And we'll see. Maybe they're going to come out and be like, this is $30. This is $20. This is $40. Maybe. If it's $40, okay.
That would be better.
With Frozen Wild and all that, yeah, I'll spend $40. I think that's fine.
One quick comment, because I just found the write-in about the pricing of their games really interesting. It seems that the games that they have kept at $70 are the games that they have outside media interests, whether it's a movie or a TV show Returnal has been knocked down to $50. So that's one that hasn't remained at 70. The other one was Ratchet and Clank has been brought down as well. And I'm just looking on Amazon right now.
Yeah.
But Gran Turismo, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon, all have remained at 70 for the time being. And Spider-Man has remained at 70. But not Sackboy. Sackboy's down to $30. So
yeah, I want to see what does Returnal cost right now on PSN. Will it even show me? Because I own it already. I can't even tell.
Let's see.
It's like, okay, cool.
That's kind of weird that you can't.
I
see
can
that
log
after you
out,
buy
but I
it.
don't want to log back in. Who knows if I'll ever be with Sony? Who knows if I'll ever get back in?
Returnal
I swear to
45
God,
on PlayStation Store, and it's on
So-
sale right now.
I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I swear to God, like sometimes I'll get logged out of the PSN, not on my PlayStation, but on like a web browser, and I'll type my password in, and I know it's my password.
No, totally. You know what the problem is?
And
it's the two-factor authentication like being busted. There's like a known bug that for some reason they won't fix. You cannot log into PlayStation Store or PlayStation Network on Vita if you have two-factor authentication open, and it will not tell you that. Like people just figured that out because it was like they're like trying to like find ways to just keep you off of the PSN on like to kill the Vita. So
crazy.
So I have it turned on obviously, but when I need to sync or like download something on Vita, I have to turn off two-factor authentication, or it will like give me some mystical error code that has no return. Which is great. All right. Well, Horizon Zero Shame. We'll see when that comes out.